So we went in front of the judge and we made our case and we said, listen, we're not asking for any monetary claims. Bankruptcy court is very, very concerned with protecting the assets so that they can divvy them out to the creditors, right? We're not asking for any monetary relief. We're not even asking for any equitable relief against St. Vincent's Hospital. We're only asking that the Department of Health do what the Department of Health is supposed to do, which is oversee, investigate, and protect our public health and safety. And the judge said, no way. Yeah.
What was the reason?
This was May 6th. What were the grounds? The grounds were that we had no standing. So check this out. When this all first happened, we rushed into state court. And in state court, we can bring a derivative taxpayer action and say, as a taxpayer who pays for services like the Department of State, we're in essence standing in the Department of Health's shoes and saying, dear court, make this agency do the right thing. St. Vincent's rushed in and said, no, you can't do that. There's a stay in bankruptcy court, so you have, and bankruptcy court is asserting all of the jurisdiction on anything related to this. So you can't go into state court. You have to go into bankruptcy court. So we went into bankruptcy court, and we said, hey, bankruptcy judge, we think we should be in state court. We're asking for state court relief. We're suing the Department of Health. We're not suing St. Vincent's. We're not asking for money. We don't think it has any effect on you or the debtors in possession to in essence ask for this investigation, right? Wrong. The bankruptcy court said, no. This is the jurisdiction. You have to bring all of your claims here. This is where the relief has to be sought. So we said, we disagree, but okay, we'll go into bankruptcy court. So on May 6th, we went to bankruptcy court, and the judge said, no. You can't go into bankruptcy court because you don't have any standing here. So we can't go into state court, but we don't have any standing in bankruptcy court.
What do you mean by standing?
Ground, a reason to bring an action. So bankruptcy court is very narrowly focused on creditors, assets, liquidating assets, and giving it to creditors. And we can get into a whole mishigas about who the creditors and who the debtors are, but that's basically the very narrow focus of the bankruptcy court. So the bankruptcy court is saying to us, we don't have standing because we're not trying to get money from the debtors, but they're also at the same time saying we must go in front of the bankruptcy court because our action impacts them. So let's move on. Let me back up. Also, what Frank is saying is that, in essence, when all of this happened, St. Vincent, and actually there was a quote in, I don't know if it was the New York Times, there was a paper from a spokesperson from the Department of Health who was saying, listen, they're a private hospital. If they want to close, they can close, right? And they literally said that. Now then, St. Vincent's Hospital is not a private hospital. It's a 501c3 public charity. It takes significant, hundreds of millions of dollars from public money, and as such, it's a public body. And as such, it is obligated under general municipal laws and meeting laws, and it has to include the public in its process. So when it secretly voted behind closed doors on April 6th to simply shut down the hospital, it couldn't do that, right? I mean, there's just so many problems. And so what I think Frank is saying is we need to look at some of that stuff, and that's why lawsuits are important too, because there's a discovery element. So here we are, we're just fighting to get into the front door. Meanwhile, we are serving FOIL requests. We ask folks for this documentation, which we received would be like, if you have nothing to hide, why wouldn't you turn this information over? They said no. So,
but are they breaking the law?
In my opinion, I think absolutely. And here are the ways. First of all, as I just said, as a public charity, they cannot simply just close down the hospital, right? They have to include the public.
But we are so we have standing as the public. They don't. When they say we have no standing, that's incorrect.
It is incorrect.
In bankruptcy court, though, she's saying we have no standing. That's where she went to, bankruptcy court.
Well, we started out in state court.
Right.
And the state court judge was more than happy. She didn't mention any problem with standing. She wanted to hear the case and made some really great comments like, we need to save St. Vincent, and was seeming very, very encouraging. St. Vincent's bankruptcy attorneys appeared and said, no, there's a stay, and you can't violate this federal stay. And we tried to say we don't think that that the stay affects us, but the state court judge, being prudent, said, she literally said, we'll go to federal court on Thursday, and if you don't get the relief there, come back here, thinking that somebody was going to hear this, right? But the bankruptcy judge said, no, I'm retaining jurisdiction, so you have to stay here. And then on May 6th, after they closed down on April